We are stopping these things so far through tremendous hard work, the use of sources, the use of online undercovers, but it is incredibly difficult, right? I cannot see me stopping these indefinitely.
Well, that was the director of the FBI, of course, issuing a dire warning about the terror threat to the United States. That was just days before Muslim immigrant Mohammed Abdul-Aziz opened fire at a military base in Chattanooga, murdering 5 people. And the ongoing threat seems even more imminent when you consider there are more than 100,000 Muslim immigrants that come to America every year legally to study in colleges, and many more who come through other avenues. So do we need to make changes to our national security and to our immigration policy to keep us safe? Joining us now, retired FBI Special Agent and Counterterrorism and Tactical Operations expert Tim Clementi. Tim, thanks for joining us this morning. So,
thank you, Tucker.
Do law enforcement agencies see the massive increase in Islamic immigration to the U.S. as a problem?
Well, it's a problem in that clearly individuals like Abdul-Aziz come from this pool. There's no doubt that he was the perfect profile. His age, his education as far as being in the engineering sciences, that's kind of typical, beginning as far back as the 9/11 hijackers. And it's something we've seen continuously. So clearly this is a pool of individuals that need to be looked at and need to be scrutinized when their applications for visas, either student or otherwise, are being considered. And the FBI has a daunting task as it is with individuals that are already here, and when we consider that hundreds of thousands more are coming this next year and beyond, it is, as Director Comey said, impossible to try and keep up with that influx. The individuals alone that we already know may be involved with terrorist groups or may be leaning in that direction that need to be watched or put on watch lists is already something that overwhelms the manpower that the Bureau has.
So is there any coordination between law enforcement and policymakers? So, Congress lets in a certain number of immigrants from Muslim countries every year. Colleges lobby for more student visas because they want the money. The government of Saudi Arabia, for example, pays for all these Saudis to study in the United States. Does anybody ask, say, the Department of Homeland Security, what do you think of this?
I don't believe there's much coordination at all. The fact is that the freedoms we enjoy as Americans and those we extend to foreign visitors allow a certain level of let's say, leniency on the part of the State Department in handing out those visa applications, and you don't need a national security clearance to come into the United States to study here from abroad. And so there's no consideration of the national security threat unless that individual is connected to someone directly or is themselves on some kind of a watch list. There really isn't a process in the middle there to see who they are and who they might be.
It's interesting, and just to restate, there's a lot of money at stake here, and colleges are making an awful lot of money from this influx of students. So last year, just to put this on the screen, there were 127,000 visas issued to students from majority Muslim countries. That is a huge increase. Is that primarily the threat? I'm looking at the screen here, 53,000 from Saudi Arabia, Iran, 10,000, Kuwait, 7,000, Nigeria, which is about half Muslim, almost 8,000, Indonesia, 7,900. Is this something that law enforcement officials are concerned about?
Well, I don't want to paint with so broad a brush that we make every individual that comes from a Muslim country or every Muslim look like they're suspects. They're not, and I have a lot of Muslim friends that are, even this weekend, celebrating the Eid al-Fitr, their highest religious holiday at the end of Ramadan. But clearly, that is the pool from which most of these radicalized young men and women are coming from. So it is a pool we need to look at, and we've had educated individuals that have come here that have clearly used their access to America to target America. So it's something we need to look at, and I think it is a concern, but it's a concern that is very hard to deal with when the restrictions on law enforcement are that you can't just wantonly pick out people and try and dig into their lives because you think they might be a potential suspect. There has to be more. The way our laws are written today, there has to be a reasonable suspicion in order to move forward with an investigation, and that has to be developed in a way that the United States Attorney General guidelines allow for the FBI or other intelligence agencies to continue scrutinizing these individuals.
So we're
very difficult, very high bar set.
We're pretty much helpless, it sounds like.
Well, I would leave it more towards that it's not that. I mean, clearly we're outnumbered. We have 13 or 14,000 FBI agents around the world trying to protect America and Americans' interests. But it's impossible when you're looking at the millions of potential individuals we would have to look at to be able to sift through that haystack to find a needle. It's impossible.
It does sound it. Tim Clemente, thanks a lot for joining us in that perspective. I appreciate it.